Here comes a bouncy one. If there's a show on the television and you're the one with the perfect vision for how to write it and shoot it and cut it in post, then you could be a showrunner. The Showrunner Show.
Yay!
Thank you so much.
That was great.
There's a 10% chance I've already done that one. I found it like deep in my voice memos. I don't think so, but 10% chance people are like,
I don't remember it.
That old chestnut. Welcome to the Showrunner Show, where every week we demystify some aspect of the job of showrunning. For anyone who works in TV, who wants to work in TV, or who just wants to know how it's all made. I'm Stacy Shabosky.
And I'm John Eric Dowdle, and we're so glad you're here. So last week we talked about the cost of a career in writing. This week we wanted to talk about the benefits of a job in writing and why, with the costs associated, would you want to consider doing this? And obviously, if you're listening to this, you're already considering it or doing it. There's so many reasons. Yeah, Stace, what's your favorite?
My very favorite thing, I think I've said this before, is just getting to use my imagination. Like, I really take a lot of pleasure in daydreaming and coming up with stuff, and you get paid for it. To actually be paid to use your imagination is awesome. Yeah. And to spend a lot of your time, like, yes, there are practical things, like things need to be shot on a real location and you're really talking to real, actual people. There's a lot to the job that is actual, but a lot of it is just in your mind. A lot of it is just thoughts and words and images, and I really enjoy that.
I love like writing something I care about or writing something that I've experienced in my own life and putting that into a character or into a scene and seeing that touch other people and other people react emotionally to things I felt or observed.
Yeah.
Feels like, in our early days with horror films, it'd be in a movie theater and see people like jump and like having reactions like that. And then, since then, like, I've seen, like men tear up at certain lines I've written and stuff like that. And it means so much to be like, oh, I feel seen, which I know it sounds kind of silly, but I
think that's why you got into writing. You came from more of I think I come from more of like ooh, fun. And I think you came from more of an emotional place with it, that it's, it was writing began for you as like a form of therapy almost.
Yeah.
And you've always liked to exist on that emotional plane with your work.
You're absolutely right. It was a way of, for me originally, at like 14, learning to deal with, parents like messy divorce and just the, all the complications of that in my life and my siblings' lives and just we were sort of raised silent in a way as kids in my family. We were just expected to like, just go get A's, like succeed, but like, don't have problems. You know what I mean? And so writing became my way of, I don't know, just staying sane,
Yeah.
And
when you put it that way too, of saying like, don't have problems, it's like writing is problems, writing is conflict and characters in difficult situations, and the ones you like, overcome it, or sometimes they don't, It's pretty cool.
It's cool. And so much of writing is putting characters in precarious situations and then helping them find ways of getting out of those. And there's something so therapeutic. Like I would say just generally like writing in a writer's room with other writers, there's a real group therapy aspect to it. It's
100%.
It's like one part summer camp and it's one part group therapy. And that's so fun to like do a hard thing with a group of people that, some of them you've never met before. And now we're getting real. We're talking about like, oh man, when I was a kid, my parents forgot me at this place for, a day, or you know what I mean? Or whatever those things are that like inform you as a person that you may not have told to, some of your closest friends in the world. Like, but you have this, small group of people who are all, soft-hearted artists also who are willing to get deep and go into like And that may not be the tone of a comedy writer's room, or it
I've
might.
heard not. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard
I bet it's
not.
the tone of a lot of happy, successful rooms, though, that like that level of talking, listening, sharing, and then, sometimes just to share, but sometimes to use something from your real life and maybe morph it a little so you don't insult anyone in your real life by,
Yeah,
turning them into a character or a moment or something.
yeah.
That's really a big part of the job. That's pretty cool. There aren't many jobs where sitting around yakking and sharing are integral to it.
Yeah, it's true. And I'd say, and one of my favorite things too is no 2 days are alike. It's never,
Yeah.
you may have the same hours for a period of time, but then you'll move on to a different, show, and it's totally different hours, totally different people. It's not like the same. I would guess some jobs are, you show up, you have, the same people year in, year out, surrounding you, and becomes a very predictable set of, things you do over the course of a day or a week. Maybe I'm naive in that way, but
No, I bet a lot of jobs are pretty predictable. I'm guessing. I don't know.
yeah. Whereas, you may be, planning the perfect murder on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, you're, figuring out like creative ways to solve the crime for the,
Yeah.
and then, Friday, like, a character coming up with a good reason for a family to split up, and, or whatever. Like, it's like every day is this like weird new challenge. And then, how to get scripts in on time, how to manage the machine of, that. It's like every day is like a bunch of puzzles, like of
That's
different
true.
kinds, of time puzzles, money puzzles, script puzzles, story puzzles, personnel puzzles, like, and I find that really thrilling.
Along the same lines, I like that in the room, the more focus you can have and the longer you can stay focused, the better the day goes and the more of your ideas get put in the show. Like you can sort of see, like I am not a teacher. I don't have a teacher personality. A lot of my closest friends are teachers. So I felt like I should be able to do that, but I really can't. That's not my thing. But I have a real student personality. Like I like to do this thing where, say, I'm in a seminar or a lecture or anything. I mean, it can even be like jury duty, whatever. I like to be the person who's very still and very focused, just like I like to make the teacher look at me. You know what I mean? That's such a weird thing to say, but it's true. It's true. And they do. They end up basically teaching the class to me. So that sort of focus of like, oh, I can do this. I can sit in this chair for 6 hours. Let's go.
Yeah.
It's fun to do that. I will say, stuff like, social media, the phone, all that is chipping away at it. And I can feel my own focus and my ability to stay in a deep focus zone getting smaller and smaller. But rooms, when I'm in a room, actively in a room, it builds that muscle, which I really enjoy.
It's so true. And I mean, and it's so interesting. Like I find the room is really interesting a lot of the time. Like it's people telling crazy stories or coming up with like riffing on ideas and just sort of seeing the way ideas shape, before your eyes. And, what was like this amorphous thing suddenly becomes this really specific, very specific thing. Like I find that awesome. Like one of my favorite things in writing is having the moment of stepping onto set and being surrounded by something I came up with by myself in my, at my desk, like some like weird idea. And then finding, 6 months later, or whatever it is, stepping onto set and being like, this is that thing. Like it's almost like a projection of, my mind has suddenly become reality. And that is a magical thing that, I don't really know how many jobs have something like that where you can actually stand in your imagination.
We have a newcomer to the party, Drew Dowdle.
Hello, it's Drew. I'm here a little late. Good to be back.
Good to
we were
have
just
you
talking
back.
about the magical feeling of like one of the cool parts of the job is you've thought of something, you've written something, you've talked about it, and then one day you get to step onto set and it's actually there. Like the house, the apartment building, the whatever, the carnival is actually there, which I find especially magical when it comes to animals. One of the happiest days of my life was being on set for Drew. I think you were directing it. It was in the animal, like on the reservation, the animal sanctuary or whatever, and
Yeah,
being like,
animal
my
sanctuary.
God, that's a pelican. That is really a pelican because a group of people got together and wrote up a character who works in an animal rescue, and those are the animals. It's a pelican. Like, that's so cool.
It is truly the most mind-blowing thing of all of this. Like, some people work on scripts or in writers' rooms of shows that don't actually end up getting made, and it's still, still worth doing and still a good job. And but the first time you get something made and it's something you wrote, and seeing the actual physical manifestation of whatever detail that is, on a set, is so cool. It really is just the greatest payoff,
Yeah, totally. Or there's just some random detail you just kind of dashed off, and he pulls up in his Ford Bronco and he does this and it does that, and then you go to set and there's a Ford Bronco and you're like, oh, it's literally exactly what I mean, and somebody had to go get that Ford Bronco and bring it here, and there it is. This power of it's almost like, man, it's like that Mickey Mouse thing where he suddenly has the magic wand and he's just making stuff happen all around him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like one of those where I typed it and there it is in real life. I find that magical every time.
Totally.
The sheer number of people, too, who are in on it, who are like, I showed up very early today because I have agreed to play this big thing of imagination. Like, maybe I'm the person, holding the boom or whatever, but that, when you were a kid, John's older than Drew. And he said, he'd be like, do you want to play, when they were little, he'd be like, you want to play tag? And Drew would be like, no. And John would be like, you want to play Snoopy tag? And he'd go, yeah. As long as he stuck the word Snoopy on it, he would do it. But that's, that feeling when you're a kid and you've got an idea for a game, or you've got an idea for a little imagination thing or whatever, and you really want everyone to play with you and to do that thing, for your Barbie scenario to be the one that wins out. To do that at a professional level where you're like, I wrote some Barbie scenarios and there are 400 people here to make it a reality. They're all playing Snoopy tag.
Oh yeah, Snoopy tag.
Yeah.
The whole
Totally.
army of people playing your game. I know there's moments. I mean, my favorite moments in our career have been those moments of total ridiculousness. On our movie No Escape, we had a scene where all the hotel residents get to the, hotel rooftop, and then this militia guys get up there and start, shooting everybody. And then a helicopter comes up and it crashes on the roof of a hotel and takes a bunch of people out. I mean, it's ridiculous on the page. And then to be there on the day, oh my God, we have not only a real helicopter flying around, we have the body of a helicopter on all these wires held up by a crane on the 10th-story rooftop, and in Thailand, and where you just look at each other can you believe anybody is letting us do this? This is ridiculous. This is totally ridiculous.
Have we told this story?
That was the day after we burned down the the building very accidentally. A set building got burned down, due to a mishap. No one was hurt, thank God. But it was the
scary,
day after everyone had half their gear because it had burned up in the fire.
And everyone's gear smelled like a campfire, all the tents and everything just reeked of fire. And,
it was 1,000 degrees, and there we were, this is crazy.
This is crazy.
It can be when silliness and playfulness has the power, because usually in life, that stuff doesn't get a lot of power. But those moments when something big is happening and you're like, hee hee, we made something up, and everyone's in. It made me think of. Have you guys told your rain rig story yet? I can't remember if we've told that on the podcast.
I don't think so.
In terms of a moment of something silly, imbuing almost godlike powers for just a moment. Will you tell that?
Oh, so on the movie Devil, we were working on the movie Devil, and I was directing. And, one of the things I would do, I realized, sometimes when actors are prone to being kind of chatty and hanging out, if you just yell, roll sound, actors go, oh, we're starting, and so I'd realize the 80s were kind of just letting that, so I would just start yelling out, commands to kick things out, into gear. And we were in this building and there was all these glass windows around. downtown Toronto. And we had all these rain rigs because in the movie it's supposed to be raining. So we had like torrential downpour like on a switch. And so, most of the time it's off. And we had, the lobby was full of people and I just started yelling out commands like, roll sound, roll cameras, roll rain rigs. And then I hear everyone in the lobby go, "Oh!" I was like, "What?" And it turns out they had just let out a Toronto Maple Leafs game had just let out like right down the street, and there was like 1,000 people outside, and suddenly it's like torrential downpour like out of nowhere, and they were like running for their lives, like it's like not a drop of rain, torrential downpour, and the 80s were like, "Dude, what are you doing?" I was like, I didn't know they would actually roll it, like it didn't occur to me that they would actually do it. I was just trying to get things going.
I know. They had let all the pedestrians through just a second before, but in our field of view, we couldn't see them yet. I will also add that it was probably about, 33 degrees. It was like a degree above freezing. It was just cold as hell, November, Toronto, just above freezing. Kind of day.
So obviously,
Horrible.
we never would have done that on purpose, but
No,
it is pretty funny.
It was pretty funny.
It was pretty funny. Like I got in some trouble for that. Like I get a little swept up sometimes, but it's a silly life in a lot of ways. And it's one of my favorite things too is like you write something that's just ridiculous. There's a scene in Joe Pickett season 1 where he tries to help some old ladies get an emu out of their house, and the emu attacks them and like keeps. And we wrote this, and we just thought it was so funny. And it's like, in the pilot, and they're like, "Well, you're never going to be able to get an emu. Obviously that'd be so dangerous." And like visual effects. We're like, what if we just get a puppet and we have like put his hand in a puppet and he can just attack himself with the hand of the puppet. But then it's like the layers of. Then we have puppeteers, and to get the feathers right, they had to like gather emu fat, like the levels of serious like business that went into creating like this ridiculous moment. There's stunt people, and there's breakaway furniture, and there's all these things.
Hot puppet on set.
Yeah, totally.
So many emu meetings for that scene. Serious.
But then in
meetings.
the end, he's pecking his own face and playing it dead straight and killing it. And then you yell cut, and everybody's laughing their asses off, and it becomes this huge bonding thing. It
does. I never have laughed so hard on set than Michael Dorman's first take of just pecking he just sold it so great, and that just killed me. It totally killed me.
It was so funny. We were just howling in laughter, and it was one of those one of the first scenes we did with Michael Dorman, and it was like, we're like, oh, I love this guy. This dude is we're gonna love working with this guy, and I think he had the same with us.
He got along with the crew so well, and I wonder if a lot of it was just like, oh, day one, this guy doesn't take himself too seriously. Like he's just being hilarious and pecking himself with a puppet, and I wonder if it was just instant trust.
Oh, so funny.
God, so funny. Those were my favorite days on set. But that's such a good example of like the ridiculous turning into like serious preparation, and then back to ridiculous again, on the day. It's really a fun cycle.
The emu feathers are coming from Vancouver. They're coming. You're hearing all about the transport of the emu feathers.
We don't know that they'll be here in time, but hopefully the emu feathers will arrive.
And lucky us, Fraggle Rock happens to be shooting in Calgary at the same time, so we got the the Fraggle Rock puppeteer, and like, oh my god, just our luck. It was great,
It was hilarious, just every step of the way, and just so much of it, like it really is like. You're kind of forced into staying a child in many ways, like to be a responsible child. You know what I mean? Like to have all the childish playfulness, but the responsibilities of an adult, and that's awesome. Like I love that about our job. Like it never ceases to be kind of ridiculous and hilarious, and it's an industry full of people who are very competent. Very skilled, have a deep well of craft, are like get their stuff done, but are like children at heart. And that's a really nice space to live in.
Yeah. And I think for the writers out there that have been in the room, you guys may have already touched on this, and apologies if you did, but if you can get yourself to set and, talk your showrunners into being an on-set writer for some portion, it really is just such a great payoff for all the work in the room to see it, to have that experience and to make that part of your ongoing, experience is really, could not recommend it more highly.
One of the things with this career is like when it pays, and that's a caveat, but when it pays well. And
it does.
If you can stay working, and again, and one of the costs of the job is it's uncertain, but all jobs, really at the end of the day, like in this, in the modern era, all jobs are uncertain. You may think you have a job at, Chase Bank and you're going to just do this forever, but then they downsize and, let go of thousands of people. Like, you just never know how certain or not your job is with writing and stuff. It's just a little more obvious. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, I have 20 weeks on this job. It'll support me all year. If I do another job, then I'll be able to sock money away. And if I do 3 jobs, like then I'm, doing great, and it's, it does pay well though, when it pays.
I'm a huge fan of the emergency fund that, I think, what is it for the average person? You're supposed to have 6 months. Is that right? The smart thing to do is have 6 months worth of whatever your living expenses. If it costs you, $15,000 a month to live and do all your stuff, 15 times 6. Whatever that is. I don't want to get into it. But I think in our business, probably better to go with, if you can, like a 9-month safety net. Because there are times you can go a whole year without working.
Yeah, we were just on strike for 6 months, and that's, we had Craig Brewer on the podcast a few weeks ago, and he's like, sometimes a rainy day is, 180 rainy days, and, and that is true. But the flip side of all that, I think too, is like, you do make enough. The flip side of that is, I used to work like a straight job before doing this in finance. And it was like, I don't ever get a week. You would never get a week off, just like between, the December holidays maybe. And then maybe you have an opportunity to take one other week off in the year. And the nice thing about these jobs is, you're always trying to like hustle for another job, but inevitably you're going to have a month off here and there. And like, not many jobs offer that, if you're a parent and like, have young kids and like you get to actually spend every day with them for a month or two, like that's pretty special. And not many jobs offer that.
That's so true. That's so true. And it is a job unlike, many others. Like, with our writer's room and the hours we run in our writer's room, we tend to do like a 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. kind of thing. And, everyone gets to have dinner with their families. Everyone gets to, do drop off with their kids if they want to. And if there is a thing like, oh, my, kid has this thing that's really important, could I get out of the writer's room to go do that? Like, we're big fans of that. We believe that that stuff's really important. And we make the time for that ourselves. Like, we still go to the kids, like, publishing parties, for their, the stories they've written and stuff like that. And that stuff's important. Like, you don't get to live twice, and you don't get to, be with your kids in the house, after they're gone. Like, you gotta, we find it really important in our rooms to like stay human and to be human beings and to like live, a reasonable life that, isn't asking you to sacrifice everything for this, because that's stupid. Like, at the end of the day, the career isn't really going to love you back. You can get a lot of meaning and derive a lot of satisfaction from it, but this isn't the thing that's going to love you back in the way that, your family or your friends and family and, being a human being will. And, so we're fans of that. That's not always the case with every writer's room, but that's, in one of the benefits of a career in writing. I'll say, once you get into the showrunner spot, you can be like, okay, we're going to work from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. And then people can prepare outside of that. Like, you can set the hours. And if you're a maniac and you're like, oh, I just never want to ever go home in my entire life, like, I'm just going to work, 20-hour days, like, some people will sign up for that, but that sounds miserable. But more power to you if that's your jam. But once you're the showrunner, you can, Drew and I, have implemented like, hey, let's do 4-day weeks. Like when we're not actually shooting or not in a writer's room, let's do 4-day weeks instead of, 5-day weeks. And we still find a lot to do on those days. And I'm sure the 5th day we actually get caught up on a whole bunch of stuff that we were neglecting. But still, like there is this element where you can have some autonomy, some control of your own life in a way that a lot of jobs you're beholden to someone else. And coming up in writing, you are kind of beholden to someone else, but you can choose the jobs you try to, the rooms you try to, get into based on lifestyle if you want.
Yeah. At first, you're just going to be saying yes, probably. But when you reach a certain level, you can find out what the culture's like. And then when you're in the top spot, when you're in the showrunner spot, you can help create the culture, which is really nice, of not just about hours, but, just making a safe, respectful space. If people have health problems, I feel like there were a lot of health problems on the last show, but, coming out of COVID, that was like a natural thing, that to be able to be respectful of people going through real life stuff.
Yeah. With that, we'd like to say like, oh, this is just stuff we do while we're, to like spend our days doing something fun. Like health stuff is like real, that takes priority to any of this. And, if you need you're having some issues, you need to be at a doctor, like you shouldn't be like, oh, I'll go to the I'll go to the doctor over the weekend because I really need to be in the writer's room. It's like, no, get there. Like if it's important,
Yeah. I have another plus. Glamour. There's a certain amount of glamour. It's,
for sure.
I'm still impressed by celebrities.
Yeah.
No, and
it's
what?
Fun getting to meet fancy people.
Actors love the writers. Actors love the writers' room. They love the writers. When the writers are on set, they love to get to know them. Like there's definitely a glamour factor when it comes to cast, and I think it's unlike other positions maybe on the crew where actors are very friendly with everybody, but like they really have a special soft spot for the writers, and I think there's just an instant bond between the writers' room and the cast.
It's because we're like doing the exact same thing as them, just uglier.
Just
with their ugly doppelganger.
Well, and actors are smart. They know to like be very friendly with the cinematographer and the camera operator and the writers. You know what I mean? Those are the people they need, write me great stuff.
Write me good stuff and make me look, like me well, make me look good. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, totally. Where, they don't want us
but you also
putting
get to
them
go,
in the chicken suit, You
get to do fun stuff too. Like, and it's funny it always sounds fun. And then the day of, it doesn't feel fun, but then you're there and it is fun. Like, parties, events, red carpet stuff. It doesn't happen a lot, but although in certain parts of the industry, it happens all the time, like producers and stuff, I feel like are going to evening events and openings all the time. But that can be a delight. We went to a party once. The three of us were so intimidated. We just stood there like turds, like, but it was some magazine's Oscar party or whatever. And it was so fun to overhear celebrities talking about other celebrities. Like, I can't remember who it was, but I think I overheard Tobey Maguire go like, "Oh my God, that's Meryl Streep." And you're like, "Oh yeah."
That was Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway. Oh my God, it's Meryl Streep. It's like, oh, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And then we're standing like 4 feet away like this.
Who are you guys? Yeah.
Like, who invited us here? Like,
why are we?
Did they send this to the wrong people? Like, it was like it was like us and like A-list celebrities all around, and it was one of those things. Like, was this a misfire of email?
This a mistake?
I kind of couldn't wait to go because the whole thing was like, It was more like I just wanted to leave with you guys and go somewhere that we could talk about what just happened. But glamorous.
It was glamorous. Though.
It was. It was exciting, and it is the kind of thing, in one of the costs of the job, Drew was saying like how people have a lot of questions about the job and stuff, but I'd say on the plus side too, it's like, I'll be in a conversation with someone and, that I've never met, and they'll be like, "What do you do?" And we talk, I talk a little bit about it, and they're like, anything I'd know. And I was like, "Oh, I worked on this thing, and if they've actually seen something, I've worked on it. It's fun. That kind of aspect is fun where they're like, oh my God, I saw that. You did that.
Yeah.
Like
recognition is nice.
Yeah. Recognition is nice. It feels pretty good to feel I'll put this at a greater thing, like to feel an impact in the world, like to be like, I wrote this thing. It was #1 in Trinidad and Tobago. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like we won the box office in Trinidad. Like that's because they have crazy.
One theater.
They have one
you
theater.
Guys won it.
One theater, but
Still,
we played it. You know?
But you just can't help but imagine there's an audience in a theater in Trinidad like watching our movie. Like that's so cool. That's so cool.
I had a layover recently in the Atlanta airport, and I was wearing my Joe Pickett shirt, and I went up to the Delta counter, and the woman was like, "Great show," and I was like, "Oh, I write on it." She's like, "Really?" So I got so excited, and then like 5 minutes later, these teenage girls recognized me from acting in some of the kids shows I used to do, like some Disney shows, and I have to tell you, I really felt like hot shit. I felt like I fully did. I fully felt like hot shit.
I don't know, to get acknowledged for two totally different things, two totally different professions, even in the same place. It's pretty amazing. I know we bought my wife and I bought a house last summer, and not in LA, but somewhere else. And the owners of the house, did that thing of like, oh, anything I would know. And, I mentioned a couple things. And our movie, No Escape, turned out that the husband and wife, it is their favorite movie. They've watched it like 6 times.
Stop.
I swear to God, they were like,
that's
no
awesome.
way. I mean, to them, it might as well have been like Barbie or Oppenheimer or something. It was like in their household, it was the movie. And
that's so cool.
And they are like, now they're still neighbors. They moved just down the street, and they like want to hang out all the time. They're super cool. We like them a lot. And but it's just so fun that not everybody in the world saw that movie by any stretch, but when it connects, and it's really fun.
I bet when
really
you're really
nice.
famous, it blows. Like I bet being Brad Pitt is hell on earth. But
That's
like,
got to be too much. Yeah.
Writers rarely get to, it's like, I'll worry about that. I'll worry about that when I get to it,
Yeah. Well,
a little
no one's
recognition.
going to recognize a writer. What is Seth Godin says, the best spot is to be like 2,000 person famous. You don't want to be millions of people famous, because that's awful. It, forces it, like it's almost like a prison,
For sure.
And if nobody's ever heard of you, that's great, but there's not an upside in that, or not a, but to be 2,000 person famous, then you can, write a book and get a book sold, or, you know what I mean? You can do all this stuff, and it doesn't necessarily fully apply to this, but
being a writer is fun because you can be anonymous. You can be way more than 2,000 person famous. I mean, famous in terms of people have recognized. Like, I hope more than 2,000 people have seen the shows we've written. Otherwise we're in real trouble. And yet we're relatively almost completely anonymous. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
that is the best. That is the best. I know, like some of the actor, people we know, that is a tough life. I remember during COVID, the ability to wear a mask around was like changed the world for, for celebrities and, actors that are very famous. Like could go around town and not get spotted at all, for that period of time. And not everybody liked wearing masks, but I think a lot of celebrities really loved that zone because, it changed everything. You could totally be incognito for the first time in forever.
I'll say too, there's that thing, like, I feel like if you're a writer, it is very likely that there's probably some moment in your life where things were like hectic or traumatic or something, and suddenly life split into, okay, this is the life I'm living, and this is all the ways I want to turn it into like stories. And it's like, it almost creates this split. And then finding yourself, some years later, for me in my journey, like finding myself some years later, able to say the things through characters that I was too scared to say to anyone, you know what I mean? And in the past, like to grow up and to be able to say these little secret, things to the world in ways that feels safe and easy, not easy, but like safe to do. Like to me, that's one of the greatest joys, is like being able to like say all the things, or have a character say all the things that I wish I could say, you know what I mean? Like I'm not being very articulate with that, but
no, I think I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. But
cool.
yeah, the expression, to be able to say, you know, the things you think about or, you know, feel and may not have a good outlet to do that. Like to see those come through some of the characters and give expression to, I don't know, little quiet parts of your own soul and life. I find really beautiful.
The flip side of the coin for that is, because that sounds almost like sharing like one deep truth for yourself, or like a deep truth and sharing it. The flip side of the coin, I think, would be getting to be other people. You know, I love, we've been talking a lot about voice lately, you and I, and getting to speak in other voices, getting to spend a lot of time researching other lives and other, you know, characters, getting to like pretend to be, I don't know if maybe it's because I'm a Gemini, but that feels very natural to me, that to spend a lot of my time thinking about being other people feels really good.
Well, in the experimentation of like, ooh, what would happen if this character met this character? And then to sit there and play the game of like, this character might say this and this character, like, I don't know, those dialogue games are really fun too. Like the experimentation of like, what would happen if we, you know, put our character in this situation and then playing the game of it, you know, of, I don't know. I like the experimentation, the like, you know, kind of being a mad scientist, like trying this and a little of that and seeing what happens. I find that really fun.
And hopefully you're writing clear enough characters that you drop 10 of them into the same situation. All 10 of them are going to have 10 different reactions or 10 different ways of expressing it, or, you know, that's super fun.
Totally. So, you know, in summary, like, you know, some of the benefits of having a career in writing is like expression, community, like kind of living a life of summer camp and like playfulness, you know, when things are going great. It's really, it can be really fun. There's a group therapy aspect to it.
It's interesting.
It's interesting. Every day is different. And it can pay really well. It can be inconsistent, but it can pay very well.
Yes.
And,
also good union, good health insurance, which after, you know, 10 years of using the free clinic.
Yeah.
Oh man, health insurance, you know, it's fantastic.
And if you do it, what is it, 14 years or 15 years in the WGA, and you get insurance for life for your independence. Yeah. The WGA is a spectacular union. It really is.
Yeah.
It is. And
that feels good. If you like our show, please consider taking a minute to subscribe and rate us wherever you get your podcasts. And please tell a friend. That all really helps us find our audience. Thank you. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Ciao.
Bye.
See you guys.